Good morning. Good morning and welcome to this workshop called Legacy Begins with You. Now, I'm Gina Jones, and I thank you for joining me for this workshop. I hope that my audio is okay. Let me just check and make sure all is well there. Okay, I see that's good. Okay, so for everyone who is here today, I thank you for joining me for two reasons. First of all, because you're spending, probably the next 45 minutes with me. But second of all, because um, you must be in a situation where you're thinking, I need a legacy plan. I hear what she's saying. It's just, so many things going on, or whatever the reasons may be where you don't have the legacy plan that you want. But I just want to welcome you and say this is a safe space. I also want to encourage you to make comments, ask questions, send a message, whatever you are feeling. The reason that I wanted to host this workshop today is just to begin a conversation. So even though I am a legacy attorney, this is not about tools and trusts and wills and all of the things. This is more about saying, hey, legacy planning is important. You've probably been putting it off. Maybe you've been saying, I know I need to do this. I know it's important. I really want to have a legacy that matters. I want generational wealth, whatever these words are that you're using. You're saying, I know I need to do this, but you've probably been saying that for months, if not years, and still nothing is done. And let me just tell you, just for comfort, you are not alone. This is very prevalent, and it came to me as being a issue. Why people who have the ability, have access to professionals, access to all the things they would need to set up a successful legacy plan, but still haven't done it. So that kind of allowed me to see into a deeper issue that first needs to be addressed before we even have a conversation about wills, trusts, legacy strategies, tax strategies, estate plans, all these things. So just letting you know that you are not alone if this describes you and your situation. And also I want to let you know the legacy planning is about so much more than money. It's really about identity. It's about activating that legacy to create more for the future. So let's just set an intention right now. This is not about information overload. I'm really here to talk to you from the perspective of a real person who's also very busy, who's also a wife and a mother and a daughter and a, person who has to, has clients and jobs and so many things that have to be done in the course of a day, that it's like something like legacy planning can so easily get pushed to the back burner or even like just off the stove. So with that background is where I'm coming to you with this conversation. And it's really about getting the conversation started and helping you to understand maybe why you really have not started this process. Because no matter how busy we are, a lot of times it's really not the thing that we point to as reasons why we haven't gotten this process started. It's really something a lot deeper than that. And so today is really about hopefully giving you an aha moment that kind of shifts the way you think about legacy planning, shifts the way you see yourself in the legacy planning scheme of things, and really to understand what's possible for your family. So those are the things I'm going to be talking about with you today. Again, I really would like for this to be a conversation. So if you have any questions or comments, please don't hesitate to put those into the chat or the message section so that we can kind of get a dialogue, because I really want to be impactful for someone today and not just, having a conversation really for no reason. I got too much to do to just be here, not, be impactful. So let's just talk about where you're now. I'm just gonna move my mic a little bit. Where are we now? Where are we now? And a lot of people are in different places, and that's totally cool. But talk about the reality of delay and avoidance. So that's really what this comes down to, is we don't create legacy plans when we know we should, when we know it's important, because of delay and because of avoidance. So this is what this looks like. So you've been meaning to talk to your parents about, their aging, about future care, about their desires, but the conversation, it just feels too heavy. So you put it off another year. And every parent is different, every child is different, every relationship is different. And so you may have one of those parents who feel like that conversation is really you trying to usurp their authority or their independence or something like that. And really it's not. It's just you trying to understand, mom, dad, what do you want me to do in this situation, or if this were to happen? So maybe the conversation or the relationship is not as conducive as you would like to having that conversation. So you just kind of put it off and off and off and off. So the problem with that is that, it's the conversation may not ever be easy, but putting it off also is not the answer. I always help people with these conversations because they're not easy. And me being an objective third party, like I have no interest in it, I'm just want to talk about it. Having a third independent party may help to get that conversation started and actually get it to a place where it should be. But you just don't want to deal with it. And so it just gets put off and maybe not really done. Or maybe it's you and your spouse. You guys want to get together on finances, really come together and build that legacy for your family. But it seems like every attempt really ends in tension. Maybe not an argument, maybe it is an argument, but you just don't feel like you guys are on the same page and you don't really know how to get there. So you both really silently avoid the whole thing. Like I got too much on my plate to deal with this. Another example of delay and avoidance is maybe in your business. Maybe your business does generate great income, but there's no plan if something were to happen to you. Okay. The business dies when you die, or the business becomes incapacitated if you become incapacitated. The business becomes ill when you becomes ill. So that means that, they're without a plan for your business to continue to thrive, to continue to generate income, to continue to grow without you, is very detrimental to your family. In the case of illness, even if you get better, your business may not recover. So having this legacy plan, this succession plan in place is totally critical. Another thing I see a lot is that, people are able to buy nice things, cars, trips, whatever, but they still feel anxious about the future. And that's just because deep down, you know that none of those things are going to protect your family. And sometimes people feel like these temporary nice things that kind of give you that rush of satisfaction kind of allow you not to deal with the more long-term money conversations and wealth issues. So a lot of those things are psychologically based, and it's very interesting, but they can be, kind of manifestations of something else that is deeper, that really, really stops you or hinders you from creating the legacy that you want for your family. Or, a lot of people feel like, oh, I'm not good with money, or I've never really had to handle money. And maybe you feel overwhelmed. It's not that you're irresponsible or you're not wanting to do the right thing, but you're just overwhelmed. And that overwhelm just kind of keeps you in this holding pattern where it's like you don't do anything because you feel so overwhelmed that you can't deal with it. So the truth is that most of us don't get stuck because we don't care or because we don't want to. We get stuck because all of these things like caring for parents and, making sure that we have the financial picture and the college tuition and all these things, it just gets so overwhelming. And so it's like in that situation, we're stuck and we just do nothing. We just, kind of check out and then, on to the next thing. But there is a huge cost of not thinking about your legacy plan, not having these conversations with your parents, not having those financial conversations with your children. It's like every year of waiting is a year where your family is essentially unprotected. And every time you say, okay, I'm gonna get to it later, I'm get to it later, it usually actually compounds the problem, making it harder and more expensive and riskier when you do finally, get that motivation to actually act on it. So we don't want anything to be harder and compound and just grow to this big old thing that is like, oh my God, I could never deal with that. And then again, we just never really get it done. And then all the cost isn't just financial, it's emotional. It's really that constant quiet stress of knowing like I haven't done it, I need to do it, I'm not prepared, my family's not protected. You know what I mean? All of that avoidance, it feels safe today, like I don't have to deal with it right now. Whew. But it really creates chaos tomorrow. And it also just always plays in the back of your mind, like I gotta do it, I gotta do it. And so, my thing is I just don't want to think about it anymore. You know what I mean? I'd rather just kind of get the hard part done and then get it checked off my list. Now that's a peek into my personality where everything I just want to check off my list. That's my total goal is checking things off my list. So one of the things that is interesting is that people's financial psychology a lot of times explains why people don't act even when they know they should and even when they want to. So for example, money equals emotion for people. So when people start thinking about legacy and legacy planning and what and wealth and what do I want to leave my children and blah blah blah, all these things, it's not really about money, it's about their emotion. Because for most people, money decisions aren't logical decisions, they're all emotional decisions. And emotional decisions are filtered through things like fear or shame or guilt, or even in some situations, pride might take a huge role in that. And so when we think about money, you also have to be honest about the role emotion plays in those money decisions. Also, there are inherited beliefs. We inherit financial scripts from our parents, from our culture, from our society, and those silently run the show. Like, no matter how old you are right now or what phase of life you're in the back of your mind and through this lens is you're making decisions through this lens, though you may not realize it. When you were 7, when you were 8, maybe your parents got into an argument about money, maybe something financially devastating happened in your family, maybe you experienced poverty, or maybe you didn't necessarily have a meal every day, or whatever those things were or occurred or that you witnessed or experienced in your childhood. In many cases, that is the lens through which we still filter and make decisions, even though it's X number of years later, even though we're in another financial or cultural or um, financial situation. It doesn't matter, because unless you recognize those scripts and change them, they continue to play. It's kind of like a computer. Like we all have computers and we all in phones and whatever. And so when we take it out of the box, it has certain software on it. Well, very often the software has to be updated. And even the phone won't even work if you don't update the software. Well, us as humans, our brains, our financial scripts, our ideas, our beliefs all need to be updated, all need to be re-examined, and making sure that they are kept up to date and that we're not making decisions today through a lens of an experience that occurred 30, 40, 50 years ago. So that is kind of one of the things that is really, really impactful when you think about maybe why you're not doing these things, even though you really want to and you have the desire and you know that you should. Another thing to think about as far as the financial psychology is this cognitive dissonance. So it's like you can want generational wealth and you can want, a really, really awesome legacy plan that impacts multiple generations. But at the same time, you're sabotaging it because part of you, that same part that's still 7 years old, um, it doesn't believe that it's making you now not believe that you're capable or that you're even worthy of it. Like you don't even deserve it. So your mind won't even really let you not only deal with it or approach it, certainly not take the steps to do it. And so it's almost like that phrase where you don't rise to the level of what you know, you act at the level of what you believe. And that's really where the gap between the legacy you want and the non-action, that's kind of where that gap begins. And so that's kind of the starting point of where we need to begin to look introspectively to say, why am I not doing this? And it has nothing to do with, you having to pick up the kids or go to the soccer game or, service this client. It really has nothing to do with that. And so here are some examples of financial psychology in action. So a successful person who's able to buy luxury items just can't bring themselves to invest in a legacy plan because she subconsciously believes she doesn't deserve wealth that lasts. Another is an entrepreneur who avoids tax planning until Q4 every year, then panics because planning feels like a confrontation with failure. So I see all of these. I mean, I see these all of the time. And it is just very interesting that people don't have the awareness of really what they're saying and what they're doing not matching and really being counterintuitive to each other. Another example is a couple where one partner saves excessively because they have a fear of scarcity. The other spends freely because they don't want to be restricted. Now, neither one of them is wrong, but they're both trapped by what is probably an inherited money script. So, in one situation, this person who saves excessively, they probably saw their parents struggle. Their parents had to save. Their parents said to them, you got to save as much as you can. You got to save for a rainy day. You got to have, X number of dollars in the bank at all times. Whereas the other one may have grown up in a household where it's like, oh, we got X number of dollars. Let's go. We're going to spend it. We're going to do this. We're going to do that, and so those mind scripts, those money mind scripts are just so different, but that is the foundation from which each partner in this relationship is operating. So imagine when they're trying to get together to plan and that they have these opposing money scripts and they don't know that these are money scripts. They just think, oh, you're a tightwad, and then the other is like, oh, you're just a spendthrift. But that's really not the case. It's just they need to get on the same page and recognize what those money scripts are because they probably aren't even aware of them. And so if you can't really get on the same page about money and that even having that conversation, then legacy planning absolutely will not go the way you want it, and it will, be avoided because it's like, who wants to just walk into an argument? Nobody. And so that's one of the reasons also legacy planning doesn't get done by couples. Now, if we want to begin to kind of talk about where we want to be, first we just have to kind of take a minute to recognize the patterns, and hopefully you finally see that the problem isn't lack of discipline or intelligence or time or any of those things. It's really these invisible beliefs that are running in the background. Like when you turn your computer on, it's just the screen, right? You open Excel, let's say. Excel is the only thing open. But if you open that task manager, you'll see it's probably 50 other programs running in the background that you can't even see. And that's how these invisible beliefs run in the back of your mind. They're just running in there and they are influencing all your decisions. And you think you don't have awareness. You think you're thinking about this one thought, but really all that one thought is being filtered through all these things that's running in the background. But the first step to breaking them is really daring to imagine a different future, daring to imagine that you can achieve the things that what your goals are, and really seeing yourself as a wealth creator, as a legacy creator, um, and knowing that you're worthy to be that, and that you can be that. So if we think about for a second, everybody is in a different place. Everybody is in some people are professionals, some people are entrepreneurs, some people are moms, dads, daughters, sons. Some people have aging parents. Some people have parents who may have a disability or who have a more advanced aging process. And so we all have different things that we need to kind of talk about or think about. And all these things influence kind of where we want to be and how we can get there. But if we talk about where we want to be, okay, there are some general commonalities as far as what people want more broadly. So people who still have living parents, we want our parents cared for with dignity. We don't want to go into a last minute, like frantic panic, making decisions like within 48 hours because maybe there was an accident or, your parent failed or whatever the case may be. We don't want that. We want to be able to approach things from a proactive place to make the best decisions, because you never make the best decisions in chaos. Those are absolutely the worst and most expensive decisions. We never want to be there. But we want to be in a place where we can relax, have a conversation. And this is just the ideal place of where we want to be. We want our children to know not just that we have a legacy plan, that we're setting up an inheritance for them, as well as for their children, but we also want to make sure that we give them the financial background, the financial literacy, the values of that are important to us, that we want them to carry on. We also want to be guidance and tools for stewardship. And a lot of times the reason that we may not do that is because we feel like, oh, we don't really know what's going on, or we're not financially savvy, or, we have all these reasons about why we can't have these conversations. But really, these conversations are very foundational to a successful legacy. Hey, Penny. So I just want to this is really what the things we really want to do. And we want to do them so bad, but then we just don't. And it's just like, oh my God. But also we want to just kind of wake up every morning with peace, because we know our family is covered. No matter what happens, they are protected. Like, we've done the things, we it's checked off of our list. We don't have to worry about that anymore. But also, it's not just about wealth. That's also freedom. It's also peace. It's also security. And that's really what a true legacy looks like. It's not about money, because money is a tool. It's great. We need to use it. And if we use it properly, it multiplies. But we really need to have that foundation, which is, largely based on values and communication. We also, if, we're in a marriage, this is what we want it to look like. Couples are no longer stuck in that silent financial tug of war. They're aligned, they're clear, they can have a conversation, they're united, they're building wealth together. Families should be having a open conversation about money. That's what people want to do. They don't want to feel fear or shame, and can't talk to their children. They want to feel strong and empowered and be able to say to their children, hey, here are the financial tools, here are the values, here are the things that are going to help you to be successful in life, so that when you do get this inheritance, you'll not only manage it well and be a good steward over it, but you'll grow it for the next however many generations in the future. And it's also looking like a business owner, seeing their company not as a short term income machine. Oh, this is paying the mortgage and it's paying the bills, but seeing that business as a generational wealth machine and an engine of opportunity for many generations. So, again, legacy planning is just not about money, it's about relationships. Like I said, money is just a tool to build and connect. But if we don't do the proper planning, it can also turn into a source of conflict, which is what we don't want. Now, when we start talking about retirement, which is, it seems far for a lot of people, but it shouldn't remain a question mark. It should be a launch pad into the next chapter of your life. It can be an exciting time, a time of abundance, a time of travel, global opportunities, purpose driven living, more opportunities to volunteer and really get close to the topics and organizations that are that are closest to your heart. Also, in this vision of where we want to be, health is wealth. You know, you're investing in yourself today. You have to invest in yourself today so that you're strong enough to enjoy tomorrow. Because even if bought, let's just say you bought Bitcoin at whatever, $10, and now it's 100,000, maybe 120,000, whatever it is, and you bought 1,000 shares, it makes no difference if you're not healthy enough to enjoy it. So really also focusing on that health piece now, so that later, you remain healthy and able to thrive and enjoy life, is something that, people also want to make sure that they're prepared for. But again, the thing that we need to pay attention to is our professional team. People want professionals to help them out, but a lot of people don't realize that they can have professionals working for them. They can have a professional team, and you don't have to be Rockefeller to have that. Your professional team is the one that protects, multiplies, and guides your wealth so that you can just focus on living. So you can focus on transferring those values to your children and grandchildren. So, I think a mindset shift is in order, because it's like some people have the thought of, just scraping by. I'll work, and then as long as I have security, my social security and retirement, or as long as, whatever these small things are, is kind of okay. But we need to shift that a little bit, and we need to design a life that feels abundant, it feels aligned, and it feels sustainable. And it's like, a time where we get to live our best lives. And so when we think about where we want to be, those are the thoughts that I really challenge you to have. It's like more bigger thoughts, more abundant thoughts, and get rid of these small thoughts. And it's not that anything is wrong with small thoughts, but I'm just saying there's so much out here. And I just really, really want people to be able to have awareness, understanding, and experience them. So right now you may be stuck in a survival type mode, but the future you want, clarity, peace, freedom, is really closer than you think. And the only reason you're not there yet is because these invisible blocks, these things that are just running the back of your head, they're still in the driver's seat. They're driving you around. You're a passenger in your own life because you don't realize that you're not the driver. But the moment you take that wheel and you start to control the thoughts, and you say, oh, I realize that I have carried that mindset. It needs to change because I'm not that person anymore. I'm this person. As soon as you do that and you're able to bring awareness that that is a situation that you need to address, everything will begin to shift, and you won't be held hostage by those thoughts, and you won't be in a situation where you really want to do it, but you can't. You'll get it done. So there's so many reasons why that gap between where you want to be and where you are exists. I've talked about a few of them, but one of the things that kind of touched on was those mindset blocks. And a few of them are, I'm going to just go over a few. One of them is perfectionism. We do have some people that are perfectionists, and that is like, if I can't do it perfectly, I won't start. So if I don't have all of the money and I don't have all of this, I won't start my legacy plan. I'm going to wait until I get all that stuff and then I'm going to do something. Well, that could be, too late. This is called Legacy Begins with You, but it's also should have had a tagline that said Legacy begins now. It begins now with what you have. And yes, you want to accumulate, you want to build, you want to multiply, and that'll happen. However, you have to start now. Also, another mindset block is procrastination. Well, I'll do it when things calm down. I'll do it when I'm less busy. I'll do it when this, when that. But that time really never comes because I don't know about you, but no matter what, it's like my life never calms down. And I've been trying to understand, like, I check all these things off of my list and then it never goes down. I don't know. Maybe it's just me, but that's not a good marker to place your legacy planning upon. You can't do it when things calm down because they probably never do. Also, some people have scarcity thinking. For example, if I spend money on planning, I'll have less money. That's kind of counterintuitive. If you invest in planning, your money will multiply and you'll have more. So, that's kind of the better way to think about it. Or some people are in survival mode. It's like they're constantly reacting to a situation instead of creating situations. And so those blocks just kind of, it's just too much moving around for you to really focus on what the things are that you need to do to really say, okay, yeah, or I can have a team to help me of professionals. How does that work? It's just being in survival mode and all these other things just kind of block that thought process. And these aren't flaws. These are survival strategies that you've probably had to use at some point in your life. But what kept you safe yesterday is keeping you stuck today. So that's why we kind of have to identify those mindset blocks and move them out of the way. And there's also money narratives. These money narratives are very interesting because these are the inherited beliefs. These are things that I talked about a little earlier when you were 7 or, a little kid, you heard somebody say something, you saw somebody struggle. So for example, you may have heard somebody say, people like us don't have wealth. We can't build wealth. We can't leave an inheritance. Or talking about money is greedy, or talking about money is rude, or you don't talk to your kids about money, it's none of their business, or only grown folks need to know about money. Wrong, wrong, wrong. Okay. Another one you may have heard is that debt is normal. Okay. But if you grew up hearing this, it may not feel like a belief, it feels like a truth. People like us don't have wealth. That's not a belief. If you grew up hearing this, you may feel like that is actually truth, but it's not. That's just a story. And it's really somebody else's story. And if you adopted it as a child and made that your story, it's really time for you to write a new one. And you can write a new one. But first, you have to be aware that this is actually the story that you've adopted. Another one is fear. Fear is huge. There's so many fears that we deal with as humans, as people, as mothers, as daughters, as fathers, as, all these, as children. But fear of failure. What if I get it wrong? What if I hire the wrong person? What if, this happens? What if? Well, what if you don't do anything? Then you're going to create a situation that's not ideal for you or for your family. Also, there's fear of family conflict. Well, if I bring this up, it'll cause arguments. This person doesn't like it when I bring this up. When we are family gatherings, my mother always says well, not my mother, I'm just saying people, grown people, stay out of grown people's business. Money is a grown folks conversation. So it's like almost, you don't want to bring anything up because you want to keep the peace. Another thing is fear of mortality. Some people believe if I create my legacy plan, if I think about this, I'm admitting that I'm not going to live forever, and I'm admitting that I'm going to die. And I'm just going to just kind of throw this out right now. I'm just tossing it out. It's like everybody's going to die. So that does include you. So if we could just get that off the page, then we could have a more robust conversation and a more real conversation. Because if you're walking around thinking that you're going to get to heaven, but you're not going to die, I'm just saying it's not real. So let's just get on the real page, and then we can have a real conversation. And that will open up so much, just you kind of getting over that thought of, if I talk about it, if I do about it, I'm gonna die. Okay, let's just get that off the page. Okay, everybody is going to die at some point. Fear, when people are fearful, it can be misunderstood as fear protecting you. It's like you kind of justify it because you tend like that fear is protecting you. But in reality, it's robbing you. It's robbing you of your peace today, and it's robbing you of the security for your family tomorrow. And it's robbing you of the plans and strategies that you could have implemented to make sure that, 3, 4, 5, 6, 10 generations were educated, that 10 generations had money for start their own businesses. So fear is a liar. It's not protecting you, it's only robbing you. And every day you allow it to win, that's one more day that you leave your family insecure. And so hopefully you'll, if fear is something that you're operating in, you'll identify that and then take the steps to kind of be aware and take steps to kind of break out of that and leave fear. Only faith. Now let's talk about where we want it to be, and we talked about where we are and maybe why we're there. Again, this is just a conversation just to kind of get you to start thinking. And so now that we recognize what that gap is and why we may be experiencing that gap, all of those things, money mindsets, your financial psychology, inherited beliefs, fears, all of those things. Now that we kind of put a name on them, how do we address them? How do we change the story? It's like, how do we replace those old beliefs with new empowering beliefs? So if we are 40 years old, but we're still operating with that financial mindset that we adopted when we were 7 years old, now that there may be some awareness, how do we make that change? So how do we go from planning is too expensive to planning saves my family from chaos that really costs me 10 times more? How do we make that shift? How do we talk about, money causes conflict to saying talking about money builds clarity and trust? That's kind of a transformation and a replacement of a new story, or replacing a new story. It's almost like it's helpful if you write down the belief and then you say to yourself, what's a more powerful truth that moves me closer to my vision? So if your old belief was, I got to spend every dollar, or, I don't want anybody controlling my money. I don't want any boundaries on my spending because I just want to live my life and have fun. If that is the old belief and you really want to replace it with a belief that maybe says, I do want to have fun, but I do want to leave an inheritance for my children's children as I was directed to do so in the Bible. Which one moves you closer to your vision? Which one is a more powerful truth that is going to help you accomplish those things? The one that does not help you move closer, X that one out. And then let's talk about how we move once we X that out and we have our new belief, the more empowering belief. How do we activate ourselves to move from that thought to actually taking action? And that's not going to be like where you're about to turn into the superhero and now you got all the time and all the, thoughts and blah, blah, blah to do it. That's not real life. But it does start with that awareness, with kind of writing that simple phrase down and see which one is more in alignment with things that you want to accomplish. But then after that, you have to activate, you have to take the next small steps, and they have to be small steps because you don't want to get overwhelmed, and then become, kind of just check out on and be like, oh, okay, yeah, I have to get to that later. It's just me to think about. So maybe a small step, and that may be one conversation with a spouse about, financial mindsets or what their money mindset may be, and share your money mindset. That might look like, hey, I was in this workshop today, and Gina was talking about money mindsets and how spouses might not have the money mindsets and may not even really know what money mindsets are. And my money mindset is one where, my parents always told me to save every dollar. And that's why I'm obsessive, maybe to a fault, about saving. So that's where I'm coming from, and that's kind of how that money mindset that I had as a child, that's how it manifests. And so I know that we're different, but what is your money mindset? And what is, what did your parents teach you as a child, or what did you see that may be shaping your money habits? So that maybe if we understand each other's money mindset, we could probably get on the same page. So just having that one conversation, or even with a parent, and that conversation may look like, Mom, one day you may not be able to live alone. And so when that day comes, what would you like to do? Would you like to move in with me? Do you want to maybe start looking for a living facility that, is for active adults, and they have all these activities, and, a fun place that you might want to stay? Like, what do you think you want to move with, this person or that person in this country, in that state? What is it that you envision for the remainder of your life? Because that's what essentially I want to honor, but I just kind of want to know what your vision is and what your thoughts are. So just kind of having those, just one simple conversation. You don't necessarily have to, get everybody in the family scheduled, but just have that one conversation. And then, write down 3 things your family should know if something happened to you tomorrow. I don't know what that might be. Maybe it's, the insurance policies you have. Maybe it's your bank passwords. And when I say something happened to you tomorrow, I don't mean you died. Like, maybe there was an accident, and so now maybe you are incapacitated, or under sedation, or something like that, and somebody needs to do something. What are those 3 things that your family should know if something like that were to happen? And then also, you can always book a call with me, because you don't need every answer to begin. Conversation, that's all I want to do, is just kind of guide you through how to think about these things, how to have that conversation, what your next steps can be, what the possibilities are for your legacy. Because confidence doesn't come before action. Confidence comes from action. So you actually have to take the step, and you actually have to take that action, have that conversation, write down those things. It's like you're getting closer in a way that's comfortable for you and not overwhelming, but you're still activating, you're still getting closer to your goal. And that's really all that matters. The small steps can reduce fear, and they can normalize planning. So now that, planning was always something like, oh my God, I don't have time, I don't have the bandwidth, I don't, blah, blah, blah. But taking these small steps can normalize you thinking about planning. And that's, across the board. I've seen this, in financial situations, tax situations, and legacy planning situations. It's not only, these mindset blocks and these things that are happening to you psychologically don't only manifest in the legacy realm. They manifest in your life at large, but you just don't realize the impact that it's having. And each step you take is going to make it easier, because then you'll gain momentum to really create that transformation from the old story or the old beliefs to the new beliefs. So, like I said, this impacts every area of business, relationships, living, being able to be more proactive instead of always reacting. And so the path forward is just you don't need to finish everything today. You don't need to have every answer today, but you do need to start. And I do want to invite you to consider joining me at the Legacy Blueprint Brunch. This is the environment for activation. It's a safe space. It's inspiring. There are experts there. Your peers are there. It's really just a conversation with awesome food and just a relaxing environment to really plant seeds of growth, plant seeds of freedom, and to really get you on that path of motion. That brunch is going to be November 8th, which is a Saturday in Chicago at the Ritz-Carlton. We're going to have some really good food. And I know I keep saying food because I'm hungry and I am a foodie. And I certainly look forward to that. But I certainly also look forward to meeting new people who really have heart to create a legacy that impacts future generations, but really needs help, maybe getting over that mindset and getting that professional team assembled. The professional team will be there and we're going to be ready to get you to where you need to be. So if today has helped you any way, gave you any clarity, just kind of helped you to just begin to think about some of the reasons why you haven't started your legacy plan yet, the brunch is really where you'll build that momentum and really take that next big step with guidance from your professional team to get you to that generational wealth and that legacy plan that impacts future generations. That, I believe, my assignment is to help people to create a legacy plan that impacts future generations. It's no reason why our children or our grandchildren should have to ask a bank and get a bank's approval to start their own business, to, become educated. And so I am just really motivated by the thought of being able to help others to really, really bring that into fruition for them and for their families. The Legacy Blueprint Brunch tickets are on sale, and the website is the Legacy Blueprint Brunch.com. I think it's .com. I should know, but yeah, I think it's .com. So go to that website, and if not, you can go to ginajones.com, and there should be a link to buy tickets there. Thank you so much for your time. Reach out to me if you have questions. I'm certainly happy to talk to you and get you into a position to get that legacy conversation started and even to get that legacy planning started. So I hope to see you at the conference, and I hope that you've gotten some value from our time together. I'm Gina Jones, and I look forward to meeting everyone very soon.